Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. We got a long one. We got 7 games to preview for Saturday night in the Indoor Football League for Week 16. Timestamps are going to be right here as always. I'm not going to waste any time on this one. Let's go check out Frisco and San Antonio. Alright, so Saturday, June 26th, 6:05 p.m. Central Time, live on YouTube. Caffeine TV no longer exists, so just on YouTube now. Live from the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas. We have the 10-3 Frisco Fighters who have clinched a playoff spot, taking on the 6-6 San Antonio Gunslingers who have not clinched a playoff spot. They are very far on the outside looking in, but a couple of games to swing San Antonio's way, they'll be right back in the thick of it. They need a lot of help. Winning this game will be the start of that. So, let's take a look at the leaders statistically for both teams. TJ Edwards, Cole Blackman on the offensive side for Frisco, Charles Williams, Royce C., and Ethan Castleberry defensively. For San Antonio, Sam Castronova leading rushing and passing just like TJ Edwards. Naquan Murray leads in the receiving category. Defensively, Kevin Voiles, Ricky Wyatt, and Clifton Duck lead on the defensive side for the Gunslingers. Now, I'm not going to get into the stats or anything and like deep dive like I have in the past. You guys see them here. You kind of see what you get. We know Frisco is probably going to be more of a run-first team and have to pass if they get behind. And San Antonio is just pass it 98% of the time. So you see the stats right there. You kind of see what you're going to get. Let's just talk into the players to watch here. I don't want to streamline this too much. I still want to get a little bit of meat and potatoes here, but let's talk players to watch and we'll see how in-depth we can go. I do have TJ Edwards as a player to watch for Frisco. Last week against Sioux Falls, 10 of 12, 137 yards through the air with 1 touchdown, 16 rushes, 104 yards. That was one of those rushes was that 45-yard touchdown, 3 on the ground for him. So you need an A game from him and his skill players if you want to I don't want to say win the game, because I do think they can win the game, but in order to keep San Antonio from getting or staying in the game, if that makes sense, you might understand what I'm trying to say here. It'll make more sense when we talk on the San Antonio side. Defensively, Royce C., 7.5 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss last week. Again, it's just that same thing. You know what you're going to get with San Antonio. You need to be able to put pressure on Sam Castronova. Yes, he can scramble. Yes, he can take off. They can run the ball if they need to, but you're going to need that linebacker position to drop into coverage, to blitz when they need to, and really kind of pick and choose those battles of when can they get after Castronova. 3rd downs, 4th downs. It's a very aggressive team. We've seen that for 16 weeks now. Royce C. just needs to stay the course. You see there, he's their leading tackler in the linebacker position, 75 tackles, 9 for a loss. Can he keep that going? We'll see. Keyshawn Harper on the San Antonio side, 9 rushes, 58 yards, and 4 touchdowns last week against Northern Arizona. It was a back-and-forth battle. We all know that. Back-and-forth battle between Northern Arizona and San Antonio. Obviously, Castronova is going to throw it. Again, you know by this time what San Antonio is going to do. But in order to shake things up a little bit, 58 yards from Keyshawn Harper, that's pretty good. I don't think you're going to get that here, but just having that stat line and knowing, hey, out of his 9 rushes, 4 of those were touchdowns, can you utilize him to kind of take some heat off the passing game? We know they're going to pass it. We know that. We know they're going to spread it out to Rashad, Myers, Upshaw, Murray, whoever. But having Harper there's a little ace in the hole, going out of the backfield and catching something in the flat, taking an RPO handoff, doing something like that can really kind of elevate this offense to, dare I say, another level when they're already on another level compared to other teams. Defensively, Clifton Duck, 12.5 tackles. Again, nothing to really shake a stick at. 12.5 tackles is still a lot of tackles, but for this defense, you know this Frisco team can just throw a deep shot. They will throw it to Cole Blackman. They will throw it to Spencer Tiers. They will take a deep shot on you when they feel necessary. TJ Edwards is also pretty accurate. As you see, 10 of 12 last week. He will pick and choose when he wants to throw, and he will most likely complete it. Can you stop that completion? Can you tackle the guy for no yards? I know that TJ Edwards is going to complete passes, but it's up to Clifton Duck, Trey Long, and the rest of that secondary, and even Ricky Wyatt to really step up and, hey, we know this team can run it. Let's make sure that they just do that. We know we can score in 4 seconds throwing the ball if we need to. So Clifton Duck, player to watch here. Can they shut down Spencer Tears, Cole Blackman, Justin Rankin, whoever? Series history, we're tied at 1, both obviously meeting twice before this. Frisco, the last win, 62-57, week 8, so about half a season ago. Frisco is favored by 6, money line kind of juiced to them, and an over-under of 109.5, and I think that's the highest over-under that we have seen all season. So Vegas is predicting points here. Let's go see if we can find those points in the rest of this preview. All right, injury report, and I know I didn't get the Week 15 report out, or preview out, so kind of catch up a little bit here. Nothing really changes for Frisco. Ramirez and Rayford have been on the injury report for quite a while now. On the San Antonio side, Harold Love went on short-term injured reserve last week, and they did sign Kenny Carter, I believe, for the defensive line. He played pretty well last week, too. So that's pretty much it for the injury report. Everything else kind of just stays the same. So let's go check out the roster and the rest of the preview. All right, rosters popping up, and not really, I'm going to say this with, like, obviously previous knowledge. We didn't do a Week 15 preview, fine, but with the rosters as we have right now, there's not really much of a change for Frisco offensively, and honestly, not really much of a change for them defensively either. There's been one really big change here. They have released Ike Adigwu, and they have signed Eugene Ford, former Massachusetts Pirate, has been signed. He played with Massachusetts. He's played with Sioux Falls, most recently with Massachusetts just this season. So obviously adding quite some depth to this secondary, and they've always been good. Last year with Cordell Jackson, Kyle Myers, and obviously, you know, not blanking on the other ones here, but they've been always good with the secondary. Castleberry's been great. Pearson with his 3 picks last week. Pierce, McConnell, Ford, I mean, just throw a dart and they're going to win it. But anyway, not much else when it comes to the Frisco side. On the San Antonio side, same thing. Not a lot of changes, if any, at all. Offensively, everything stays the same. Usual suspects running the ball with Harper. Wide receivers are going to stay the same. Offensive line is going to stay the same. Defensively, like I said, Kenny Carter fills in for Harold Love, but other than that, not really much. Ricky Wyatt, and then you have your little depth piece of secondary for the Gunslingers. Should be a fun game. We should see some points here. It's just going to be, is Frisco going to run the ball better than San Antonio throws it? How do these teams go? We'll find out. Let's go take a look at our bet, our prediction. We'll move on with our next preview. Best bet, under 109.5. I'm probably playing with fire here, but that is a lot of points. A lot of points. I know Frisco does like to run the ball a little bit. Now, that didn't stop them last week. They scored 55 points last week when they beat Sioux Falls. But there's just something here where I think Frisco might want to slow the game down a little bit depending on how San Antonio comes out. If San Antonio comes out, and they probably will come out aggressively, which will make me eat my words here, because they need to win. This is a must win for San Antonio. But if Frisco can control the clock, run the ball, run some clock, and make sure San Antonio doesn't really have a lot of time, we can hit the under pretty well. How does that fare for Frisco? Not sure. So I think Frisco and San Antonio will want to keep pace with one another, how their strategies go. Like I said, one side kind of running the ball a little bit more. One side obviously is well into the passing. I'm curious to see how this goes. Obviously, they scored more than 109 points in their previous meeting, but I think the defenses might be able to prevail here. Now, that being said, I am not mad whatsoever if this bet does not hit, because we get points, and I am a sucker for teams just trading punches. They've done it before. San Antonio needs this win. They just got done throwing punches with Northern Arizona. Let's score some points. But I think the under might hit here. I think the defenses might show up a little bit. You need a defensive performance from San Antonio. They cannot let more points get put up on them. But anyway, 109 is my pick. Let's go check out the prediction. We'll move on. All right, prediction 52-45. We got a high-scoring affair, and you can honestly score another touchdown in there somewhere, or a couple field goals if you need to, but it's going to be a high-scoring affair, don't doubt it. 52-45. I do think San Antonio can score more than 45, but I'm putting a little bit of my faith into Frisco's defense. Frisco's offense, on the other hand, I don't know. They can almost score at will. It's just, can San Antonio's defense step up? We need San Antonio's defense to step up if they want any chance to really win this game or get into the playoff race. The defense was pretty good a couple weeks ago, but giving up the points that they have against Northern Arizona, they've just been there. Like, it's not traffic cone. They've been a traffic cone a couple of times this season, but hey, they've stiffened up a little bit. I know, pause, but whatever. I think San Antonio, if their defense can step up, I think they have a good shot at hopefully, maybe honestly pulling the upset. I just have a hard time seeing it. I think Frisco fighting for that 1 seed. If Frisco had nothing to play for, fine, but fighting for that 1 seed, home field advantage throughout the East, whatever they can do, Frisco's going to give it their all. They're not going to lie down. I got Frisco winning by 7, maybe more, honestly. Anyway, that's it for this one. I do think Frisco does pull out the victory. Let's go check out preview number 2 as we work our way through. All right, preview number 2, 7:05 p.m. Central Time, YouTube, live from the Rio Rancho Event Center in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. The 2-10 Sugar Skulls of Tucson heading to Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, whatever, to take on the Duke City Gladiators 1-11. Flush. Here's your toilet bowl. I know I'm going to probably catch some heat for that, but honestly, these two teams, just like with some of the other teams in this league, maybe a little bit better than what their record purveys, but at the same time, I do think your record is what you say it is. These two teams have been the epitome of inconsistent all year. Roster turnover like crazy, so many different starting quarterbacks for each team. It's just been a multitude of players coming and going, playing 1 week and getting released, signing a new guy, releasing them the next week. It's been terrible. Let's just call a spade a spade. It has been terrible for both of these teams. Here's a chance to maybe build some momentum into next season. I don't necessarily believe that because you have new rosters and everything next season. So just a chance to finish the season strong, I guess. For Tucson, Kenyatta Allen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Kenyatta Allen, Devontae Sapp-Lynch, Mike Kerrigan are your statistical leaders on the offensive side of the ball. Braden Utley, Jaquez Jackson, Rob Sheffield on the defensive side. For Duke City, Javin Kilgo, Hassan Rogers, and Journey Sloan. And then Tamar Hart, Jason Serta, and Aaron Jackson for their respective categories. So, stock players to watch. I was pretty impressed with Kenyatta Allen against San Diego last week. 10 of 19, 105, 1 touchdown, 16 rushes, 65 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Not a bad performance. I mean, he's played in the Indoor Football League before, so he knows the rules. I know there have been some changes since he last played, but he knows the basics pretty much. He, on a week's notice, he played pretty well for what it's worth. I'm putting here as a player to watch, not because I'm expecting a breakout or expecting Tucson to win or do whatever. I'm expecting him to have a serviceable game. You've gone through so many quarterbacks for this team, whether it's been Taz Wilson, I don't even remember who they had last week. They had Quincy Patterson play a snap or two. I'm Zach Reeder. I'm blanking on who they had last year. Giovanni Sanders. I mean, take your pick. I know I'm missing other quarterbacks in there too. They had Malik Mitchell. I mean, 6 quarterbacks, 7. You had Torrance Gibson play. It's just been cataclysmic right now. But I did like what I see from Allen. Hopefully he can build that chemistry with the rest of the offense. He did look good. I know he missed 9 passes, but still not a bad day at the offense for him. They did lead quite a bit the entire game practically against San Diego, so hopefully they can do more of the same. Linebacker Jaquez Jackson, 5 tackles, half a tackle for a loss. Not a bad performance from him. Again, you're going to have to get after Hassan Rogers. He is a very, very run-first quarterback, and he is probably going to tuck the ball if he can't get his first or second progression, and he's going to scramble. So if you're Jaquez Jackson, you need to be pretty much spying him the entire game and make sure that he stays behind the line of scrimmage. Keep him in the pocket, see if he can throw. Player to watch for Duke City, Hassan Rogers. 9 of 18, 82 yards, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns through the air, not bad, but only throwing 50%. I know Kenyatta Allen only threw a little over 50%. So, again, not accurate, but if you can keep him in the pocket, that's where Hassan Rogers needs to thrive. Get out of the pocket, throw on the run, do what you do best, take off and run. You only had 47 yards. You can blitz this guy, and he will just leave the pocket. Can he get out of that pocket, make some moves, and get some space downfield? We'll find out. With I'm blanking on their Bird as their running back, can he alleviate some of that pressure in the running game? I'm not sure. On the defensive side, I have Jamil Williams, 8.5 tackles, 2 for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble. It's a mirror image. Can he get after Kenyatta Allen? Again, not brand new quarterback, but brand new kind of to the system. You got a guy here. Can you pressure him and get him out of the pocket, keep him off rhythm, and do what you need to do in order to win the game? Does he even play? Does Jason Serta come in? I'm not sure. So the same thing can be said for Jason Serta. He does like to blitz a bit too. So that linebacker position for both these teams with run-friendly quarterbacks need to be important. Same thing with the secondary. Can you collapse when you notice that it's a run and tackle them for no gain or a tackle for a loss or whatever the case could be? Let's talk series history. Tucson leads the series 7-3. Last meeting, however, Duke City wins 21-20. It's their only win on the season, so cool. They are favored, however. They're favored by 1 point at home. Whether that's home field advantage, I don't know. Money line is kind of a pick'em. And then over-under is 80 total points. So, that being said, let's go check out the rest of the preview for this one. All right, injury report for Tucson. Chris Jackson, Chris Ingram, and Brad Namdar on season injured reserve. They did end up releasing a couple of guys, so that's where we stand right now. Short-term injured reserve, Dallas Raines has been on there for a little bit, and Kenneth Durden was added last week. For Duke City, they do add Jeff Carr this week, but again, they have Bird as their running back. I'm blanking on his first name, so I do apologize, but Bird as their running back, so it's not like they're going to miss much. He has been playing the last, 2 games for them, so it's been a good signing for Duke City. So let's go take a look at those rosters and the rest of the preview. All right, 25-man rosters. It's Jordan Bird. So in my head, I kept thinking Jadarius because Jadarius was playing for them earlier in the year. So I kept thinking that and going, no, it's not that, but it does start with a J. Tucson, let's take a look at them offensively. They have re-signed Thomas Reed from earlier in the season, so they probably need a little bit of help on that wide receiver side if they have Thomas Reed signing back. We'll see if he gets into the game. I'm curious to see if Devontae Sapp Lynch is the go-to guy now. Mike Jones, I don't believe, started last week. I think it was Sapp Lynch. So we'll see if he is more of a lightning rod in that running game. Defensively for Tucson, not much really changes for them. I think they keep the same guys from last week to this week, and they have signed Ryan Knight. So they, along with the quarterback position, they've kind of cycled through a couple of kickers as well. So just a little bit more of shuffling the deck for Tucson. On the Duke City side, not really much else changes offensively, minus Jeff Carr going to injured reserve. The offensive line stays the same. They have Laquiviante Gonzalez back, Lou Dorsey. We'll see if either of them get into the game. They do have a nice wide receiver core with Sloan, Terry, Dent, and Conliffe. Obviously not the best in the league, but little underrated, dare I say. Tamarian Terry has been a nice fit to the scheme. Hassan Rogers has gone to him quite a bit. Journey Sloan's made a couple of touchdown catches in the last week and just over the season. Offense is there, just probably a little too late in that regard. Defensively, they have signed Kyle Myers, former Frisco Fighter defensive back. So that defensive back actually, or defensive secondary actually looks kind of good. Now, kind of good in retrospect of better than what it was earlier in the season. So maybe that's something that can actually, prove to be a deciding factor in this game. I'm not sure. We'll see how well the passing game for Tucson goes and if Duke City can shut it down. So we'll talk more about that in a second, but there's your 25-man rosters. Let's go check out the bet and the prediction. All right. Best bet under 80. Now, the only reason I'm taking under 80 is because I am too scared to pick a spread for either of these teams or pick a money line. I don't know who's going to win this game. It can honestly go either way. You obviously see the last game that they had. It was 21-20 where Tucson scored 20 points in the first half. Duke City scored 21 in the second half. So I don't know. Obviously, they only scored 40 points. I'm expecting more points here. They're going to run the ball, and hopefully running the ball means running the clock. You have quarterbacks that can take off, and the over can hit pretty well if these quarterbacks are running 20, 30 yards downfield. We'll see, but I do have under 80. While the offenses do look good in the running scheme of things, they're just not that accurate in the passing game. The defenses are all right. Tucson's defense is decent. Duke City's defense is decent. I mean, they're kind of on the lower end, but they're all right. They're not the best in the league, but I don't think they're necessarily the worst in the league. In regards of these two teams playing each other, you see what you get, So I've got under 80. I just think that's probably the best bet because I don't want a spread or a money line because I just don't know who's going to win this one, even though the spread is ±1. So there we have it. Let's go look at our prediction because I got to pick someone here, and we'll move on with preview 3. All right, 40-38, and I've got Duke City. It's just home field advantage. I think Hassan Rogers has been there, an extra week or a week longer than Allen or anything like that. I got to pick someone, man. I think the offense is just a little bit better for Duke City, can probably score a little bit more. I'm just a little worried on the depth. If Serta's not playing, you only have one linebacker. You only have 3 defensive linemen for Duke City right now. There's no depth in that regard. So if Tucson can run and really wear down that defense, you have a chance to put up some points. Tucson does have depth, but it all depends on how these teams play. If they're going to run the ball and waste clock and take all 40 seconds off the play clock, cool. I don't know how people are going to get super tired, but we'll see. I've got Duke City winning by 2. I'm not shocked if Tucson wins. I'm 100% convinced that me picking Duke City means Tucson's probably going to win this one somehow. So that's just it. I got to pick someone. I'm putting my money on the home team. Both teams led at some point last week against some of the better teams in the West in San Diego and Bay Area. I'm a little more impressed that Duke City was winning against Bay Area. They were close. They had 9 minutes to try and take the lead. They couldn't do it. They lost by 2. Tucson led practically the entire game against San Diego. They let it slip through their fingers. I don't know. So I think Duke City at home, back-to-back home games, they don't have to travel. Maybe they're a little pissed off from losing to Bay Area. I just got them winning. So let's move on with preview number 3, and we're almost halfway through this full segment. All right, preview number 3, 7:05 p.m. Central Time on YouTube, live from the Denny Sanford Premier Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The 2-10 Jacksonville Sharks traveling to South Dakota to take on the Sioux Falls Storm, who are 3-9 on the season. We did it in the last preview. Let's do it in this one. Flush. The Eastern Conference Toilet Bowl. Here we go. What can you say about these teams? Let's talk about it here in a second. Let's talk statistical leaders. Caleb Barker's going to presumably be your starting quarterback. Between him and Aaron Aiken, I'm thinking Barker's going to be your starting quarterback. Tyler King and DJ Stubbs lead offensive categories for Jacksonville. York Jones, Xavier Peters, and Harrison Poole lead defensively. Now, Xavier Peters for the linebacker position, I don't know if he's going to start there. They had Jaron Wilson playing last week against Massachusetts, number 44, if I'm not mistaken. So I put him there as he is kind of that designated linebacker. We'll see if he actually starts, but Jaron Wilson might be in that category too. On the offensive side for Sioux Falls, Lorenzo Brown leads rushing and passing. Ken Tresbell leads in the receiving. And then Claude Davis, Amin Black, and Elijah Reed for the defensive categories for the Storm. Players to watch. I have Jaden Stoshak. And the reason why I have him is, well, who can you name in the last couple of weeks? If you're not a Sharks fan, don't answer this. Who can you name in the last couple of weeks throughout the quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers? It's the same thing from the Western preview we just did with Duke City and Tucson. Jacksonville has cycled through so many players. They've done the spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, and they're just kind of cycling through. Jaden Stoshak didn't start the season with this team. He has come on in the last couple of weeks. He had a decent game, 6 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. They let go of Breon Michelle. We'll talk about that too. DJ Stubbs is still there. Jeremiah Payton's on injured reserve. I know injuries have hit this team a little bit. They got, 4 or 5 guys on season injured reserve? And again, we'll talk about that in a minute. But again, offensively, this team is just kind of a mash unit. Signing new quarterbacks, starting different quarterbacks, whether it's been Fred Payton, N'Kosi Perry, Caleb Barker now, Connor Blunt to start the season. It's just they have not had that consistency that you are used to with Jacksonville. Yes, I know transactions and players leaving and refusing to report and doing whatever are the name of the game. You got to adapt. They just haven't this year. So they win this one. Again, build momentum to next year. Fine. But yeah, we'll see. I do think Jaden Stoshak looked pretty good last week. Can he build that chemistry with Barker? We'll see. Harrison Poole, 6.5 tackles against the Pirates last week. Again, nothing to sneeze at, but passing game's been all right for Sioux Falls and come around a little bit on it. But can he and that secondary shut down what passing game Sioux Falls has? We'll see. They had to bring him back. He is kind of taken over Jabari Gorman's spot. He is kind of that veteran in the secondary. I know there's others, obviously, but him being there, I believe from the NAL days, if I'm not mistaken, being able to be that veteran guy in the secondary, along with someone like Ulrich Jones on the defensive line. The defense needs to step up. They need to stop Sioux Falls, especially on the road. See what they can do. Offensively for Sioux Falls, Keyshawn Williams, 12 rushes, 20 yards. 6 catches, 48 yards. That's better. He did all right. He did a little bit of both against Frisco. He looked all right. I mean, what can you do? Both these teams have just been abysmal. The thing that I can't give a pass to for Sioux Falls is that they have not done the spaghetti at the wall method. They have tried to stay as consistent as they can, and it just has not worked. And unfortunately, like I said, I had both these teams making the playoffs. I had Jacksonville in the damn championship game, and I had Sioux Falls as that 4th seed. Oops. I don't know. There's just something about Sioux Falls that they have not tried really changing a lot. Like when they've tried, it just hasn't really worked either. So I guess they've just, why bother? So Keyshawn Williams coming in, I want him to have a good game, see if he can run the ball, put pressure on that Jacksonville defense, and then you can throw some pop passes, or Lorenzo Brown can have an RPO keeper and take off. Amin Black, 8.5 tackles, 1 for a loss and 1 sack last week. New quarterback. I know Caleb Barker has been in the league before. He's won a championship with Northern Arizona, but coming back in, new scheme, new system, new city, new whatever. Yes, he has played in Sioux Falls before. I get that, but maybe I'm mistaking that. But being able to just get after this guy, I don't know if he's been playing in other leagues. I don't really keep tabs on that, but if he has, he's still game ready. Still got to learn the scheme in a week. Get after him, blitz him, making him comfortable. Do whatever you got to do to make sure he cannot get his receivers. Simple as that. Easier said than done, I know. Sioux Falls leads the series 1-0 with a 52-42 victory in Week 10, so a little over a month ago. Storm are favored by 9.5. That's a pretty big number considering these two teams' records. Big money line juiced to the Storm and an over-under of 88.5. So let's go check out our injury report, rosters, bets, and predictions. All right, injury report here. Season injured reserve, Boom Williams, Jabari Gorman, Bryant Nolan, and Connor Blunt. Gone. I mean, you can still activate them if they get a chance, but I'm not sure if it's even worth it unless you want to get some moral victories or even some actual victories. Who knows? Short-term injured reserve, Marquise McLean and Jeremiah Payton. Payton was put on last week, so again, we'll talk rosters here in a second. Just more turnover for Jacksonville. Season injured reserve for Sioux Falls, Xavier Jackson, Rashad Mungro. I saw somewhere I thought Mungro was retired on the transactions page. Could be mistaken, or he might have come out of retirement to sign or something, so he might not even be on an actual injury report, but he's out for the season, so keep him here. Let's go check out our roster and the rest of the preview. All right, 25-man rosters, and really quick, you guys got to keep reminding me to change those up. I'm supposed to have the matchups of the week when I preview them and stuff like that. Come on, do your part. It's my fault. I keep forgetting to do it. So anyway, there you go. Those are the teams that are playing. You see the next preview, whatever. Anyway, 25-man rosters here for both teams. Offensively, again, just a lot of shakeup, a lot of turnover for Jacksonville. Caleb Barker, again, probably your presumed starting quarterback. We'll see who starts running back. I think Joshua Mack actually started last week against Massachusetts. And then offensively, on the wide receiver side, Stoshak, Matthews, Stubbs, and Isaiah Johnson. They've had to bring over, is it Phalogia Russell from the defensive line over to the offensive line. He did play there last week, so some familiarity there with him. Defensively, they have signed Rashawn Wilkins to be more depth for that. Xavier Peters is listed as your linebacker, but again, I did see Jaron Wilson, who's a defensive back, listed as kind of that linebacker role last week. On the secondary, Jadarius Byrd, Coffee, McGee, Poole, and Amon Ross round out that secondary for Jacksonville. Kevin Didio-Weber as your kicker. For Sioux Falls, not really. I don't think there's any changes from last week to this week. Brown's probably your starter. Denley or Keyshawn Williams on the wide receiver side. I lied. Ray J. Johnson Sanders. This is a big one here because I didn't put it in the injury report. Carlos Thompson has refused to report, which means he is still signed by Sioux Falls unless they release him. But he just doesn't show up. So it is not. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I mean, practicing, not practicing, doing whatever. I don't know what all goes into refuse to report. He's just not going to play. So they've signed Ray J. Johnson Sanders. We'll see if he gets into the game or if they go with like a 2 running back tandem with Denley and Williams, and one of them splits out as a wide receiver. Otherwise, they still have Bell, Hudson, and Lorenzo Thompson there for the wide receivers. Offensive line stays the same. Defensive line stays the same. Amin Black is your linebacker. And then your secondary all stays the same as well. So really only one major change for Sioux Falls. Let's move on. All right, this is going to bite me in the ass. I know it. Plus 9.5 for Jacksonville. I can't quit betting them. I've bet them money line multiple times throughout the season. They've cost me so much money. I don't know. I know Sioux Falls is at home. I know they have barely made any changes. Everything points to Sioux Falls probably dominating this game. And by dominating, I mean probably like what they did the last time these teams met, winning by 10, which means that they would win the spread. But I don't know. There's just something about Jacksonville. If they can kind of play their game, slow the game down, run the ball. I know that, like I said, Caleb Barker, it kind of rests on his shoulders whether or not the game gets out of hand. I know that's kind of tough to say because it's just been an abysmal season for both teams, but this could bode well for Sioux Falls. They're not out of the playoff race, and neither is Jacksonville technically, but one of these teams losing this game, you're done. I think mathematically, and then if Quad City wins or something like that, so I don't know. I've got Jacksonville plus 9.5. I don't think it's going to be close, like a 3 or 4 point game, but if they can keep it within a touchdown, there you go. We'll see. Like I said, it's probably going to come back and bite me in the ass, but yeah, I don't think they're going to win the game, but keep it within a touchdown. Anyway, it's plus 9.5. Let's go check out the prediction. I've already given it away. We'll move on. Prediction 48-40. Jacksonville scores 40. How? I don't know. But they score 40. This team refuses to score 40 except a couple of times. I'm willing them. I'm hoping and praying and willing that they get to 40 points. And even if they get to 40 points, I will be happy, even if Sioux Falls scores like 60. I don't think that's going to happen. I got an 8-point win by Sioux Falls. Covers the spread. Sioux Falls still wins by, a touchdown, more than a touchdown, whatever. And that's what we go with. So I don't really know what else to say. I think Sioux Falls is the better team. There's something in me deep down that thinks Jacksonville can keep it close. It might get away from them in the second half as the patented Jacksonville run out of gas in the second half probably rears its ugly head, but here's hoping that we can get a little bit of some points and a nice back and forth game. I don't want this one to be something where it gets out of hand early, a team takes their foot off the gas, another team claws back in. I just want some decent games. This one and the Duke City and Tucson one, just even if it's defensive battles, low scoring, whatever the case could be, fine. I just want some decent games. That's all I want. We've been treated really well this season with some really decent games, even with teams on the lower end of the win column. So here's hoping that this is another one. 48-40. I got Sioux Falls. Let's move on with preview number 4. All right, preview number 4, 7:05 p.m. Central Time on YouTube, live from the BOK Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The 10-3 Green Bay Blizzard traveling southbound. My face is so itchy. Traveling southbound to the Tulsa Oilers of 5-8. This is not a must-win for Tulsa. It's pretty damn close. 9 losses with Massachusetts having 7 wins and Quad City having 6 right now. Really playing with fire. So it's probably that close to a must-win. It might not be a must-win, but it is close to a must-win. Let's take a look at the statistical leaders. Max Myler, E.J. Burgess, Harry Ballard, offensively for Green Bay, and Rafiq Abdul-Wahid, Julius Wilkerson, and Ravarius Rivers on the defensive side of the ball. Tulsa has Andre Sale, Montero Dubose, and Alexis Rosario on the offensive side, and defensively, Noah Lyles, Jordan Jones, and Trey Harvey round out the Oilers' defensive side of the ball. So let's talk a little bit, players to watch, and kind of, go further in depth on the preview. Max Myler, player to watch. He looked pretty good against Quad City. 21 of 34. They were clearly throwing the ball a little bit as they needed to claw back into it as Quad City came out to a really good, 14-0 and 21-7, something like that lead. I know I was there. I should know this stuff, but hey, work and child and everything get in the way. So, yeah, it was a really fun game, really fun atmosphere. I really want to go back, I'll tell you that much. I need to get up to Des Moines and see what the Wells Fargo Arena is all like. But anyway, let's move on. This is this preview. 9 rushes, 38 yards, 1 touchdown from Myler. You need him. Dare I say, this is the moment that he needs to prove. I don't know if he's out of the MVP race or Offensive Player of the Year race or whatever, but this game right here, prove it. Prove it here that you deserve Offensive Player of the Year. Prove it here that you deserve MVP candidacy if you are even in the running for that. You might not win it, but the stats that you have compiled, the way that you have played, you've got this team to one of the best records in the indoor football league, top of the East. This is your prove it game. From here to the end, prove it. Prove that you need to win this game. It's not a must win necessarily for you, but you are fighting Frisco. You got to prove it. Defensively, Ravarius Rivers, he has turned on the heat from when I've done my mid-season report cards and stuff like that. He is looking more and more like a Defensive Player of the Year. 5.5 tackles, 1 interception last week against Quad City. And I want to say this. When I was sitting with my family and Judd Erickson threw that ball into double coverage or something like that, I knew Rivers was going to pick it off. And as soon as he did, I just looked over at my family. I said, I do not know why people throw it to him. I don't. The dude has 6 interceptions and 10 pass breakups on the year. Almost 80 tackles. He is probably the front runner, or top 3 at least, in Defensive Player of the Year this year. He has really turned it on. He has really turned a corner in the second half of this season. Look for more of the same here. He's going to have to go up against Alexis Rosario, Jonathan Nance. He might be able to shut them down. Sometimes those guys have gone quiet in a couple of games this year. Can he do it this time? On the Tulsa side, I put him here. He's on injured reserve. So I've got Gerard Ware here, and I forgot to change him because I changed him for Montero Dubose up at the top and then completely forgot that I put him as a player to watch. Ignore that. I'm going to go ahead and screw it. Let's put Alexis Rosario on there. He had a pretty good game against Iowa. I don't have the stats in front of me right now because I'm going off this. So pretty good game against Iowa last week. He's over 600 total yards on the season with 18 total touchdowns. He has kind of been the beacon of light on this offense. Andre Sale coming in has proven himself worthy of being a nice go-to guy for the quarterback. We'll see if he can do more of the same. Obviously, they're going to need to get more people involved in the passing game. They do bring in a former running back. We'll talk about that here in a second. But hey, Rosario, probably the leading go-to guy for the Oilers offensively. Defensively, Jordan Jones, 7.5 tackles. You got to do what Bubba Arslanian did last week. You got to stop Myler running. He's still going to get some yards, but really, Quad City kind of shut down the run game last week. Green Bay still gained some yards, but once Green Bay got behind the 8-ball, it's weird to see Myler throwing 34 times in a game. So, can you do that again? Quad City's defense is not Tulsa's defense, but there could be a chance that they can do it. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith, but Jordan Jones is kind of that linebacker that will get after Myler, either keep him in the pocket or try and disrupt that timing. So we'll see. But yeah, sometimes he is a little overzealous with how he's played this season. A couple of ejections and a couple of unsportsmanlikes and stuff throughout, but we'll see. If he can pressure Myler and get him off track, could be a tough game for Green Bay, especially at Tulsa. That home field advantage, really good. Series history, Green Bay leads 2-0. Their previous meeting, a 42-22 thumping. Week 9 at Green Bay. Hoping to return the favor here are the Oilers at their home venue. Blizzard favored by 9 on the road with a juiced money line and an over-under of 87.5. So let's go check out the rest of the preview, see what else we can gather. All right, injury report for both teams. Season injured reserve list, same thing for Green Bay. But then you're adding Christopher Biggers, Kevin Ransom, and Sean Mustin onto the short-term injured reserve. That's kind of a big hit defensively. It's kind of a good thing Green Bay has had quite a bit of depth on that defensive line because those are two big injuries to Biggers and Mustin. I'm sorry, my face will not stop itching for some reason. Ransom on the defensive backs, it's kind of a hit, but they do have Simeon Burns and they do have Nigel Canada to kind of fill in that role. We'll talk a little bit more, obviously, in the roster report. For the Oilers, short-term injured reserve, Gerard Ware, and obviously Michael Hull and Josh Crockett on the season injured reserve list. So a little bit of some skill position there for Tulsa. They lose a little bit of firepower there. Let's go take a look at the rosters and the rest of the preview. All right, 25-man rosters. Nothing changes, I don't think, offensively for Green Bay. I think everything stays the same from the offensive line to the wide receivers and running backs and quarterbacks. Defensively, they have signed Dennis Osagidi. Okay, I tried. And they've signed William Green on the defensive line. So like I said, they've added some depth there. They still have Abdul Wahid. Darren Brown has played a little bit, and they still have Oladipo. So while they have lost a little bit on the line, especially, like I said, Mustin and Biggers, who have started practically all year, it's not like they've lost a lot. They have filled guys in just fine. Brown played pretty well last week. Obviously, Abdul Wahid, I think, has started every game this year, pretty damn close to it. Julius Wilkerson will probably be your starting linebacker. And then, like I said earlier, I forgot to mention, Centel Williams is off of injured reserve, so he kind of fills in that Kevin Ransom void. Rivers, Steele, Canada, Burns, Williams. So secondary doesn't get worse, doesn't get better. It just kind of stays there. So on the Tulsa side, they do bring in Joel Shaw. He did play for Tulsa last season, and he did get signed by Arizona in the offseason this year, but obviously didn't make the training camp roster, or did and got cut early on because he didn't make the game day roster in the first week of the season for the Rattlers. Wide receivers, they're going to need a little bit out of DeMarcus Adams, Montero, Dubose, you'll probably get it too. Adams played really well last week. He's been a nice little addition. Rosario and Nance and Dubose have been there practically, I think they've been there all year, or pretty close to it. Offensive line stays the same. Defensive line stays the same. Linebacker Jordan Jones. And then they've brought back also Brito Tutt, who was with Tulsa last season. He's played for Frisco before as well. And everything else kind of stays the same there. And yeah, that's really it. So let's go take a look at our bet, our prediction. We'll get on out of here. Best bet, over 87.5. I think both of these offenses can score points. Maybe not at will, but there's something about Green Bay probably getting pissed off only being held to 27 points last week. They want to score some points. They want to win and prove that they're the 1 seed. They've scored 50-plus points quite a bit this season, so only scoring 27 last week probably doesn't feel good in that locker room. On the other side, Tulsa had a nice little offensive explosion last week against Iowa, and they played pretty well the week prior. They've put up some points, and that offense has done pretty well considering what they had just a few weeks ago, barely putting up anything. So I'm looking at an over right here. You're looking at both teams scoring over 40 points, or maybe one team scoring, 50 points to the other's 40 or something like that. So you're looking at both teams scoring around 45 points. I think that's doable. I do think that's doable. We'll see what can happen, but I do think that that is something we can accomplish here. I need both teams to give a nice effort here. I know that didn't happen the first time these two teams met, but hey, let's do it. Let's do it for me. Let's do it for my bank account. Come on. Over 87.5. Let's get some points. All right, prediction time. 51-42, Green Bay. Am I shocked if Tulsa wins this game? Yeah, probably. I can't pick an upset. Is it going to be this close? I'm not sure. I'm predicting this just because I think Green Bay can put up 50, and I think Tulsa can put up 40. It means Green Bay could put up over 50, like closer to 60. Cool. I don't necessarily see it. That offense is still obviously good. It's not like they've lost any sort of offensive firepower, but how good is Tulsa's defense? They gave up 48 points against Iowa just last week. Iowa had to switch between Brandon Alt and Daniel Smith and kind of go through that. So we'll see. We will see when it comes to that. I think Tulsa's defense can be a little exposed, but Green Bay is a good offense too. There's a good all-around team. I think Green Bay can put up points. I do think Tulsa can put up points. This could be a little bit closer than what it was earlier in the year, 20-point victory for Green Bay. But that's what we got, 51-42. Let's move on with preview number 5. All right, preview number 5, 8:05 p.m. Central Time on YouTube, live from the Lee's Family Forum in Henderson, Nevada. The 10-2 Bay Area Panthers heading to Vegas to take on the 9-3 Vegas Nighthawks. Game of the week, one of them. We got quite a few good games this week. I know we just previewed Green Bay and Tulsa, and I know Tulsa might be able to put up a fight there, but this one, it's going to be fireworks. Let's look at the statistical leaders. Daquan Neal leading rushing and passing for Bay Area. JT Stokes leading in the receiving category. Daytona Jackson, Darren Hungerford, and Antoine Kincaid leading defensively for the Panthers. On Vegas, Jerome Johnson, rushing and passing leader. Quentin Randolph is your receiving leader. And Jerry Garner, Gabe McCoy, and James. Okay, Julius Caesar, my God. That's the guy in Rome. James Caesar leading the respective defensive categories. Players to watch. I've got JT Stokes. Now, I could put Daquan Neal here. I'm going to have a true quarterback battle, dual threat quarterback battle. I think JT Stokes needs to be a player to watch here just because what can Bay Area's offense do? Bay Area, and you'll see it down here with their last meeting, they looked all right. They didn't look too good. Now, caveat to that is I think Felix Harper was the starter the last time these two teams met. I am curious to see if, since Daquan Neal now has the keys to the Ferrari, Can he be the guy that can get the ball to Stokes on deep routes and kind of take pressure off of the passing game with his dual threat ability to finally find him or Jazarick Peterson or Josh Tomas or whoever it could be. So while I have Stokes here, it's kind of an all offensive thing. I do want to see Stokes have a better stat line than that. We'll see if he can get it. We'll see. Obviously, Vegas is really good. They're 9-3 for a reason. Defensively, Antoine Kincaid. I talked in the previous preview about Rivers Rivers being a very, very good Defensive Player of the Year candidate and maybe even a front runner. Antoine Kincaid needs to be up there as well. The stats that he has shown from a defensive back position, 68.5 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss. As a defensive back, 7 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, 2 fumble recoveries, and there's a couple touchdowns in there. I think he's got a fumble return for a touchdown or something like that, I think, or a safety or something. I cannot honestly remember, but I think he has scored a touchdown too. He's had a very, very good season. And he's got to go up against Quentin Randolph or Caleb Hawley or CJ Wyndham or even someone like Tareen Taylor out of the backfield. Can he replicate what he's been doing all season? Can he get some tackles for losses? Can he break up some passes? Can he tackle people for no gain or no yak? I think he's going to have a very, very good game and that defense as a whole if Bay Area wants to stand a chance in this one. Not saying it's a blowout by any means. No. What I'm saying is that secondary needs to come to play because we know Vegas, they will throw it deep on you when you least expect it. Player to watch, Jerome Johnson, 11-15, 176 yards, 4 touchdowns, 12 rushes, 79 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, out of those 79 yards, he had a 45-yard rushing touchdown. So, minus that touchdown, when it comes to running the ball, still 4 touchdowns. Yeah, so you see what we get at. Didn't have to pass the ball too much, and he was pretty accurate when he did. Probably need more of that in this game. We know how stingy Bay Area's defense is. We know Darren Hungerford can get after it, 3 sacks. We know that Daytona Jackson, 4.5 sacks, 13 tackles for a loss, and God forbid, we just talked about Antoine Kincaid with his tackle for losses. Jerome Johnson needs to be that guy that can think critically, know when to take off and run, and if he has another 45-yard touchdown run in him, by all means, go and get it. Look for him to be that veteran presence offensively. Take those deep shots to Hawley, to Randolph, to Wyndham, and see what you can do through the air. And just when you think that they're gonna, not press coverage, play back coverage, then you're going to run the ball, and then they will press coverage or move the coverage up, and then you throw it deep. I mean, it's just kind of reading and reacting in that regard. Linebacker Gabe McCoy, player to watch, 7 tackles, 1 for a loss, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. He's bounced back between defensive line and linebacker depending on Mikel Calhoun. So look for him to have another decent day at the office. That was a pretty good game last week against Arizona. Able to force a fumble, able to get after Dalton Sneed. He had a decent game. Not bad for a linebacker position and filling in when one of your teammates is out. Series history, Vegas leads 3-2. Their last meeting, 62-43. Vegas killed them. I mean, what can you say? Vegas looked really good in that game. I think that was their 7-0 victory right there. And then they went on to lose, if I'm not mistaken, because week 8, I think you either had 1 or 2 byes by that time. So I think you were 7-0 or 6-0 around there. Anyway, yeah. Is it time for some revenge? Let's find out. Vegas is favored by 2.5, money line juice to them, and an over-under of 92.5. So let's go take a look at our rosters, bets, predictions, and all that. All right, injury report here for both teams. Tyrone Cromwell is taken off season injured reserve, but you have added Jair Joseph to the short-term injured reserve for the Panthers. Tavon Grant is actually off of the injured reserve too for Bay Area. So see if he gets into the game. On the Vegas side, they do add Mikel Calhoun from last week. I didn't talk about it because I didn't have a preview, but there he is. You still have Wimbush and Douglas. Roderick Chapman still on the season injured reserve list as well. They did take Kevin Toot off last week and he did play. I think he started last week for Vegas, so I expect him to play again as well. So let's go take a look at those rosters and the rest of this preview. All right, 25-man rosters for Bay Area and Vegas. And I don't really know. I mean, there have been a few changes, but not a lot. Let's go to Bay Area. Offensively, they signed Brandon Weldon, just a little bit more offensive line depth, either to finish out the season or just could be kind of a spell for anyone that might not be playing. Skill positions, everything still stays the same. Defensively, like I said, they do get Tavon Grant back, so we'll see what that does for that defensive line. I know Kamara, Daytona Jackson, BJ Tafalele, and even Morris Joseph have all kind of filled in. We'll see who starts. I'm curious to see. Hungerford, your linebacker, and then defensive backs, they just get more depth. Tyrone Cromwell adds to Kincaid, Atkins, Fouché, Northington, and Watson. So the rich just get richer in that regard. For Vegas, they, like I said, they do get Kevin Toot back. He played last week. We'll see what goes on with that offensive line. I think they kind of are set there. Skill positions all stay the same. Defensively, we'll see if Rick DeBrayu gets in. Otherwise, you're probably going to see more of the same from Jackson, Gardner, Hernandez, Lee Autry, whatever the case could be there. Gabe McCoy, your linebacker. And then defensively, just kind of the same from last week. I don't think there's really any changes to Vegas. Amos, Hampton, Caesar, Flowers, Williams, and Hossman for the secondary. So both these teams are at pretty damn close to full strength. This should be a really fun game. I'm really looking forward to it. Probably a lot on the line for both these teams. I think a lot of people are probably looking forward to it too. So let's go take a look at the bet, the prediction. We'll move on. Best bet, and I think I had them money line the last time these two teams played, and it didn't work, or it might have been the spread. Bay Area money line. They've got something to prove here. This is your chance to pretty much secure the 1 seed. I mean, you have the opportunity. If you win this game, you get to 11 wins. You drop Vegas to 4 losses. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that you win this game. You pretty much have that inside track to the 1 seed. Now, if Vegas does end up winning this game, they have the inside track to the 1 seed themselves. So it hinges. This game hinges on probably home field advantage throughout the Western Conference, a very tough Western Conference. I don't know. There's just something about Bay Area, kind of like a few previews ago, or there's something about Jacksonville that I can't stop betting. I have underlooked Bay Area all season. There's just something about them right now that just piques my interest that says this team might be able to get it done. I know it's in Vegas. They just had that win against Arizona. Bay Area had to kind of come back and stave off Duke City a little bit, so it's a little concerning. I'm not going to lie to you, but toughest battles go to the winners, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. But Bay Area, I got a money line. It's just probably a shot in the dark, home field advantage in Vegas and all that stuff. But let's go Panthers. Prediction 48-47. It's close. I'm not shocked if Vegas wins it. I'm just going out on a limb. It's plus odds. That's really my only reason. These two teams are very evenly matched. I know it won't show up like that when the last time these two teams played, but there's just something here where I think Bay Area, have they gotten better since that loss? I think so. Vegas has lost 3 games since then, so I don't think Vegas has gotten worse necessarily. That win against Arizona has kind of dispelled that. I think both these teams, it should be a fun game. It should be. We'll see. I just don't want to see a 62-40 a drubbing again. I want these teams to play very well. I'm fine if they want to score 50-plus points each. So I'm just picking Bay Area. Nice little slice of revenge for the Panthers. That's what we got. So let's move on with preview number 6. All right, 8:05 p.m. Central Time on YouTube, live from the Findlay Toyota Center in Prescott Valley, Arizona. The 8-5 San Diego Strike Force traveling eastbound to Arizona to take on the 8-4 Northern Arizona Wranglers. More fireworks. We just did the preview for Vegas and Bay Area. more fireworks in this one. All 4 teams are playing each other that are in playoff spots right now. Yeah, one of these teams is going to get win number 9, and if Bay Area takes care of business, they have a chance to really set themselves up for the 2 seed, whoever wins this one, if Vegas loses. Otherwise, you have 2 teams with 10 wins, one team here with 9 wins, and kind of now you might be in chance for a 1 seed, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's take a look at our statistical leaders: Nate Davis, Rudy Johnson, Jordan Kress, and then Jaquan Artis, Sherrod Williams, and Atoa Fox for the Strike Force. On the Northern Arizona side, Josh Jones, rushing and passing, and then John Maldonado on the receiving end. Tremont Lofton, Kalen Hicks, and Travion Banks lead their respective defensive categories, and there's your statistical leaders. Players to watch in this game, I've got Isaiah Cox, 6 catches, 86 yards, 3 touchdowns. We know what San Diego does. Now, they have run the ball a little bit better, with Rudy Johnson kind of filling in with that running back role. And I don't mind it. I honestly don't mind it at all. But we know the bread and butter of San Diego is throwing it. Isaiah Cox might not have to have that kind of stat line if they want to win, but it certainly helps if him, Jordan Kress, Elijah Lilly, if any of those guys have a stat line like that, I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but it certainly helps make the game close. I do hope one of the wide receivers, I'm leaning towards Isaiah Cox. It could be Jordan Kress. I'm just not sure. If one of those guys can get about 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns, could be in for a fun game. Linebacker Sherrod Williams, 8 tackles, 2 for a loss. Yeah, it's against Tucson, but we know what Josh Jones. Excuse me. We know what Josh Jones is. He runs, he throws. He has not been running as much lately. He'll still take off, but they do a lot of those jet sweeps. They do a lot of those, motion handoffs and stuff, running back coming up the middle. And it'll be up to Sherrod Williams to stop them for a loss. It'll be up to really the secondary or anyone that's mirroring inside the belt or doing whatever to stop those runs. Anyone doing jet sweeps, we know what this offense is, both of these offenses, and sometimes they just cannot be stopped. That's just how good these coaches are and these players are that have adapted to these schemes. So we'll see if Sherrod Williams and company can stop those jet sweeps and really make this team more one-dimensional. You can't necessarily stop the passing game, but you might be able to limit it. On the Northern Arizona side, Josh Jones, it's going to be Josh Jones. I've said this in the Green Bay preview. We're coming up on 4 weeks left in the season. You probably have Offensive Rookie of the Year locked up. You are probably a candidate for the MVP in some sort of regard, some sort of way. Max Myler, Sam Castronova, probably in that conversation as well. Here is your chance. You just beat Sam Castronova. Here is your chance to go and prove it. Beat San Diego. You pretty much have the same game plan from last week as you do this week. Stop that passing game. You couldn't necessarily do it, but you scored more points. You won. At the end of the day, that's what matters. I know stat padding is one thing, but at the same time, winning that game just means a little bit more. You have the stats to prove that you're an MVP. Simple. Go win this game. Keep winning those games. Get that second seed, maybe even challenge for the first seed. Keep putting up stats like this. I know it says he has 220 or 22 yards. That's a lie, because I think it was 100 or 220 something. But yeah, you have over 2,000 yards passing, only 4 picks. You have 500 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns on the ground. You are in that MVP conversation. Go and prove it. Prove it this week. Prove it the rest of the season. Well, you'll go get your awards, man. I mean, you're at least second team all indoor football, first team all indoor football, depending on who they pick. Go prove it. Tremont Lofton on the defensive side, as a former defensive player of the year himself, go out and prove it too. You've got a pretty good season on the defensive line side, 40.5 tackles, 3 blocked kicks, 4 forced fumbles, a partridge in a pear tree, 12.5 tackles for a loss. He had 2 block kicks. He was special teams player of the week last week. Expect more of the same. You need him to get after Nate Davis. You know he's a statue. Get after him. Simple as that. We'll see if they can. Obviously, Davis is good at one-step drops, two-step drops, or even no-step drops. He will get the ball out quick. Can you get pressure on him? We'll see. Northern Arizona leads the series 4-1. The last game, though, San Diego got their win. Week 8 at San Diego, 54-45. Fireworks. Northern Arizona is actually favored by 3, so ignore that. Money line is juiced to the Wranglers and an over-under of 99.5. So let's go take a look at the rest of the preview. We got one more after this. All right, injury report. Season injured reserve stays the same for San Diego, but they do add Javian Williams and Justice King to the short-term injured reserve list. Little bit of a hit to their defensive side of the ball. So more likely Justice King. Javian Williams did start a little bit. He has been a reserve a little bit, so maybe not on that front, but Justice King, definitely, he was your leading tackler in the secondary, so that is a little bit of a bite. Not to be outdone, though, Northern Arizona has added Ellison Jordan and Jaleel Mathis Ellis to the season injured reserve, and they've added Malik Sanye to their short-term injured reserve. So San Diego loses a defensive back, Northern Arizona loses a defensive back, kind of evens each other out in that regard. So let's go take a look at those 25-man rosters and the rest of the preview. All right, 25-man roster. Nothing changes offensively for San Diego. Everything stays the same from the offensive line to the skill positions. Defensively, they do get VJ Mallow back, and they do get Dexter Reese back in the secondary. So that defensive line, yes, they lose Javian Williams, but they do get VJ Mallow back. Like I said, they've kind of put in Ben Moa, Tavita Mwanga. Jaquan Ortiz has always been kind of that starter here. Byron Cooper's filled in. So I know VJ Mallow was started a couple of games before he got hurt, or maybe he was starting the whole season. So adding him in, probably good. Defensive secondary, Sherrod Williams is your starter. Defensive secondary, I don't know if Dexter Reese just fits right in, but Keyshawn Walker, Tariq Thompson, Tycorian Brown, Atoa Fox, Elijah Bell, I mean, it's not stacked, but it's a pretty good secondary, all things considered, for the Strike Force. On the Northern Arizona side, nothing changes on the offensive side, skill positions or offensive line. Defensive line stays the same, but they do add Raymond Boone in for Malik Sanye. I don't know if Boone's going to play necessarily. Kevin Hyde, Gervin Hall, Travion Banks, Lummy Young, Shamar Moreland, more than capable of holding their own here. So if Boone gets into the game, cool. I'm not expecting it. They do have depth there in the defensive secondary, but there's your 25-man rosters. Let's go take a look at our bet, our predictions, move on with our final preview. Best bet, money line to Northern Arizona. Like I said earlier, I think they just have the blueprint from what they did last week. They know what San Antonio was doing. They didn't know what they were doing, but again, they scored more points. You're pretty much going up against a carbon copy of them, team that doesn't even really run the ball. San Antonio ran the ball a little bit. I mean, we just did their preview, and Keyshawn Harper had almost 60 yards rushing. That's not to say what else Castronova or anyone else had. So you're going to get less running and more throwing. Are you ready to use that to your advantage with the blueprint that you have? I think it bodes well for Northern Arizona. I've got them on the money line. That's what we're going to go with. So that being said, we know what the prediction is going to be winner-wise. Let's go see the score. Prediction, 46-42. I do have it close. I do think it'll be a back-and-forth battle, but I don't know. I do think Northern Arizona does win this game. I do think San Diego has the makings to stay in it. They did have a comeback against Tucson. So, again, just kind of like with Bay Area, that does give me a little bit of concern because, again, you had to come back against Tucson. Now you get to take on Northern Arizona. It's just, that just doesn't give me a lot of confidence, even though I picked Bay Area in the previous preview. I just think Northern Arizona is just a model of consistency, man. I think what they're doing right now, they just don't peak. They are just consistent. And I think this is just going to be another one of those games where they just stay consistent. They might just gain the lead and never give it back, and it's just something where it's like they stay ahead by 7. San Diego ties it up. They go back up 7. San Diego ties it up. Something like that. Maybe a halftime, a bang-bang halftime where they score before the half, score after the half, and then they're up by 14. San Diego just cannot get over the hump. Something like that. That's just kind of what my gut is telling me here. I got a 46-42 victory for the Wranglers. So let's go take a look at the final preview, and we will just get on out of here. All right, final preview of the night, 8:05 p.m. Central Time on YouTube. Desert live from the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. The 4-8 Iowa Barnstormers traveling southwest to take on the 8-5 Arizona Rattlers. A lot of fun in this one for talking old AFL days, but yeah, two teams kind of heading in different directions right now, as you can see by their records. Taking a look at the statistical leaders, Brandon Alt is your leading quarterback with only 44 yards. He didn't start the game last week, but he got into the game last week. Robert Washington, Darren Wilson leading in their categories. Tyler Tate, Ian McBurrow, and Javon France for the defensive side of the Barnstormers. For Arizona, Dalton Sneed, Shannon Brooks, and Corey Reed. And defensively for the Rattlers, Rashawn Yates, Connor Taylor, and Devontae Merriweather. Players to watch for both teams. I'm putting Darren Wilson for Iowa. I've harped on Iowa all season, trying to make sure that Kean Williams, getting him the ball, he was kind of their offense to start the year. Then you kind of had a debacle between, are you starting Darius James Peterson or Tyler King? Tyler King ended up winning that out, and then Daniel Smith came back after King got hurt. Daniel Smith is gone, so now you are turning to either Brandon Alt or their new quarterback, and we'll talk about that in the roster. Going back to the Darren Wilson thing, he has kind of been that guy. He has taken over the leading receiving over Keon Williams. 91 yards, 3 touchdowns. You need someone here, whether it's him, Williams, CJ Tate, Robert Washington, whoever. You need someone that is going to stand out if you want a chance to pull an upset. You need to have this stat line, and probably have another wide receiver have a stat line like that if you have any chance. I'll just be blunt and brutally honest here. So, can Darren Wilson do it? I don't know. I don't really necessarily have high hopes against Arizona, but hey, you did this against Tulsa, and Tulsa has an all-right defense, so let's do more of the same. Linebacker Ian McBurrow, 6 tackles. Dalton Sneed can run it. He hasn't necessarily run it lately. He can. I mean, he does, but at the same time, they do hand it off to Shannon Brooks. They do the jet sweeps to Jamal Miles or any wide receiver. Ian McBurrow's probably got to stay home, play a little bit of coverage, blitz when he needs to. We'll see. We know how dynamic Arizona's offense can be, but you need that linebacker to really spy on the quarterback, read his eyes, and see what he can do in order to either intercept a pass or just kind of disrupt those passing lanes if he's going to go out and play coverage. On the Arizona side, Corey Reed, 6 catches, 116 yards, just the 1 touchdown. Same thing on the Arizona side. Not saying Iowa's defense is world beaters, but if you can have a stat line like that again, I think you win the game. I think you win it pretty well. And whether it's him, Isaiah Houston, Jamal Miles, Niger Jackson, whoever it is, one of those guys has a stat line like that, or even 2, it means you've won by quite a bit. I'll be, again, blunt and brutally honest with you. So if you have something like that, or even if Dalton Sneed just kind of spreads it around, Shannon Brooks gets going, I think Arizona has a good chance. Linebacker Traveris Farrell, 3.5 tackles, 1 for a loss, 1 pick, 1 blocked kick, and he returned the blocked kick for 2 points. It's kind of the same thing. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be in Iowa. Brandon Alt possibly is the presumed starter there. If he is, it's his first start of the season, I believe. Thrown to the Wolves. On the road, Traveris Farrell, he knows how to get after it. Obviously, he played in Tucson before this. He's been the starting linebacker here for a couple of weeks now. I can see him really getting after it, disrupting those timing routes. The defense can really clamp down with a new quarterback at the helm. So he might be in for a big day. We'll just say that. Iowa still leads the series, 3-2. Last meeting, week 6, 49-47, Arizona with the victory. Rattlers are favored by 10.5, locked money line, and an over-under of 95.5. So, that being said, let's go take a look at the injury report, rosters, bets, and our predictions. All right, injury report. Apologies, I think I said Tyler King, which would be Jacksonville's running back. I meant to say Kyle King for Iowa, so that's my goof. There's same last names for a bunch of people in this league. Hard to keep everyone straight from time to time, so Kyle King, I do apologize. So, yeah, he was the starter, not Tyler King. That'd be weird. Mark Carter still on season injured reserve for Iowa as well. For Arizona, Glenn Gibbons was put on last week. Savon Lowry and Omari Alexander are put on this week. So they have gotten more updated on that short-term injured reserve. And as you see there, with people put on, it means other people have come off. Let's go see who those people are, and we'll move on with our 25-man roster. All right, 25-man roster here for the Barnstormers. Offensively, on the offensive line, nothing changes. Skill positions, nothing changes. That quarterback position, though, is the all-important question. Does Brandon Alt start, or does Jairus Grissom, does he get the start? I think Alt might have the inside track. I'm assuming he's going to start. We'll see. But regardless, whoever it is getting their first start of the season. So Arizona defense probably licking their chops right now hearing that. Defensively for Iowa, nothing changes on the line. Nothing changes linebacker. And they did sign Jared Saad for the defensive secondary. Does he get in? They've done all right with Washington, France, Fritz, and Owens, and Sincere Mason as well. So we'll see if he factors into that. We'll find out. For the Rattlers, nothing changes offensively for them. They do get Kobe Smith back in the wide receiving room, so we'll see how he adds any dynamic there. Other than that, nothing really changes offensively. Defensively, we'll see who starts on the defensive line. I know they've had Symes start a little bit. They've had Rashawn Yates. Obviously, he is their leading tackler on the defensive line with Savon Lowry going out. Roderick Perry did play last week, and then I know I screwed up his name when he was in Massachusetts. Doesn't matter. I'm going to screw up his name in Arizona. James Nanyumwaya. Perfect. We'll see if he gets into the game as any sort of depth or anything like that. Traveris Farrell is probably your starting linebacker. I don't know if Connor Taylor's injured. I'll be honest, I did not see anything on the transactions page that indicated he was injured. So if he is, then he's injured. But if not, then I think there might just be resting him for the playoffs. Secondary-wise, they have Isaiah Huff, Rashi Hodge. I cannot remember if Huff just came off the injured report. Memory's a little hazy. And they did sign Jalen Perkins back. So they do have a little bit of depth on the secondary. Should be a fun game. Let's go take a look at the bets. Let's go take a look at the prediction, and we'll wrap everything up. All right, best bet, -10.5 Arizona. I think they run away with it. I think it's a commanding win, something like 17 points or something along those lines. I know my prediction won't say that, so spoiler alert, but I think Arizona, they need this win. This game comes to them at the right time. You have the 4 teams in front of you beating up on each other this week. So if you win this game, you have a chance to really solidify yourself into 3 or 4 seed. Most likely the 4th seed, depending on conference win percentage and all of that. So this win does come at a good time. Or win, I'm already saying it like they've got the win locked up. This game comes to them at a good time, and a chance for them to get another victory. You see who loses between Northern Arizona and San Diego, and if Vegas does drop their game against Bay Area. On the other hand, if Vegas does get their win, then you have 2 teams with 10 wins, and that makes your chance at the 1 seed all that much closer because you will have 9 wins. So a lot of stuff to shake out. This game comes really well for Arizona. Let's go take a look at that prediction, and we will wrap up. Prediction 49-35 is just the quarterback for Iowa. They have everything else from last week and a little bit beyond. I don't know what the quarterback does. Alt looked all right when he was in the game for Daniel Smith last week. But again, Smith came back into the game. So what trust or faith do you have in Brandon Alt? I'm not speculating and trying not to speculate or anything, but the fact that you put Daniel Smith back into the game, now you've signed another quarterback. Who gets the keys? Who gets the keys to the car? How short is their leash? Do you put in the other guy? I don't know. With that being said, like I said, you see the consistency that Arizona has. Yes, they've re-signed a couple of players and signed players from different rosters like Roderick Perry or James Nanyumanyuma. But yeah, I just think there's something that Arizona has right now consistently on offense. They have the wide receivers that they have brought in, whether it's been Corey Reed or Niger Jackson. They get Isaiah Houston re-signed back. The offense is clicking. Shannon Brooks is running well. Dalton Snead, I don't know if he's full health, but he's all right. He's doing what he needs to do right now, kind of a field general role. He's doing well. He's doing really well for what he is given. Defense looks good. Like I said, I think this just bodes very well for Arizona at the right time. Can they finish strong, really make a push towards the third, second, or first seed in the last 4 weeks of the season? So Kevin Guy Redemption Tour is back on. I think they get the victory here. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if it's a bigger gap than this, but I got 14 points right here. So let's go wrap everything up, and we'll get out of here. All right, I'm not going to be too long on here because this is going to be long enough with 7 frickin' previews. This should be a fun slate. This should be a fun slate of games. The Western Conference games are going to be awesome. The Western Conference games, get as many TV screens as you can. Get as many TV screens as you can, because this week, oh my God, this week and the next 3 weeks are going to be so awesome. I can't say enough. It's going to be so fun to watch. I am so excited for those Western Conference games. I'm excited for Green Bay, Tulsa. I'm excited for San Antonio and Frisco to kick us off to start the week. But there it is. There's our 7-game preview for Saturday. We only have, about a month until the playoffs? We're running out of games. I hate to say it. I do hate to say it, but we are running out of games. Makes me sad. But anyway, I'm going to take off here, guys. We have a fun slate ready to kick off. I'm right along there with you. Let's get ready for kickoff at 6 o'clock with Frisco and San Antonio. Work our way through it. That being said, I'm taking off here, guys. I love every single one of you that watches this, likes, comments, shares, does whatever. It means the world to me. I can go on a whole diatribe, and I'm going to try and keep it short here. But anyway, I'm going to take off here, guys. I love you. Thank you for everything. It truly means a lot. From the bottom of my heart, I love you. Until then, see ya.